All right, we're in section 1.3 where we're going to be talking about order of operation. Now, order of operation is a process in mathematics where there is a specific order in how we end up solving the problems. The order of which operation we use or what is contained in certain symbols or in that magnitude is how we end up solving problems, and the while doing it correctly, the problem becomes very simple. Doing it wrong changes the reflection of the problem greatly. So again, we're going to be talking about different ways that we can solve this, and then this here was a review of what we talked about from sections 1.1 and 1.2. We're talking about numerical expressions, evaluate, and what's the difference between an expression and an equation. So going more into what we're looking at today is we're going to talk about order of operation. So here is the steps that you have to look at in order to solve a problem using order of operation. The first step is we must solve any expression that's inside grouping symbols, such as parentheses, brackets, etc. The second thing we have to look at is we must evaluate the powers, or evaluate the exponents. Anything that has some number like 5, and if it has an exponent like, let's see, like 5 to the third power to be an example. You have an exponent of 3, and like say you're going to add it to 2 or something like that. You would solve that exponent before you would um, solve the addition process. The next thing you look at is multiplication and division from left to right. So it doesn't matter if division comes first or multiplication comes first. You solve it from left to right. It's kind of like reading like a book. Same thing goes then for adding and subtracting from left to right. It doesn't matter what the order is. You just solve it just like a book from left to right. All right. So looking at some examples, I have 14 minus 6 divided by 2 plus 12. So from here, I'm like, well, is there any brackets? Are there any parentheses? No, there is not. So then I can go to number 2. I can go to, okay, let's evaluate powers. Are there any exponents on there? No, there's not. So then we go to number 3. Multiplication and division from left to right. Is there multiplication or division? Yes, there is. I see that I have 6 divided by 2. So that's the first step. So now I'm going to just go 6 divided by 2 ends up giving me 3. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to drop down the plus here, minus here, and bring the 12 and then the 14. So I'm left with that fourth step. So now I can just find my addition and subtraction and go from left to right. And then 14 minus 3 plus 12 gives me 23. Okay. The next one, again, 2 times 13 minus 2 times 7. Are there any brackets? Nope. Are there any exponents? No. Are there multiplication and division? Yes, there is. There's actually 2 sets of multiplications. 2 times 13 and 2 times 7. So now 2 times 13 will give me 26. 2 times 7 will give me 14. I'm going to drop down that subtraction, and I'm left with that last step. 26 minus 14 gives me 12. Okay. So now we're going to do is just do some more examples and keep order of operation in mind. Right now I just have the 7 to the third power. That's pretty simple. That's kind of what we worked on in section 1.2. And we're just going to solve it as 7 times 7 times 7. Multiply those together, I get 343. For the next example, I have 3 plus 4 to the third power. So no brackets, but I do have an exponent, so I must solve 4 to the third power before I add them. So I'm going to say 3 plus and 4 to the third power ends up being 64, and that equals 67. Going on to the next example, I got 2 plus 1 to the quantity fourth power divided by 9 minus 4. So first step, are there any brackets or parentheses? Yes, there is. The first bracket in parentheses I see is 2 plus 1. So I get to solve that one first. And 2 plus 1 will give me 3. Keep it in the parentheses to the fourth power divided by 9 minus 4. Next, I notice that there are exponents. So I must take care of those exponents. I got 3 to the fourth power. So 3 to the fourth power gives me 81. I'm going to divide that by 9 minus 4. Now I'm left with a division and then a subtraction operation. Division becomes before subtraction, so I must do 81 divided by 9 first, which will give me 9. Then that's minus 4, and then that ends up being 5. Last example on this page, I have 48 divided by the quantity 9 minus 7 to the third power. Take care of what's inside those parentheses first. So I'm going to go divided by, and inside those parentheses, I'm going to go 2 to the third power. Got to take care of the exponents before the division, so I must go 48 divided by 2 to the third power will give me 8. And 48 divided by 8 will give me 6. Okay? From here, it's kind of a combination of what we worked on in sections 1.1 and 1.2, but we must keep order of operation in mind. We're going to substitute in numbers in for variables, and then once we do that, we're going to use order of operation to help us solve our expression. So for C, I got 8. So for 12, I'm sorry, I got 8c divided by 4. C happens to be 7, so I'm going to replace that. So I got 8 times 7 divided by 4. Since it's just multiplication and division, I'm going to go from left to right. So this becomes 56 divided by 4, and that's going to give me 14. 13, I put 7 in for C. Take care of the parentheses first. So that gives me 12 divided by 6. And 12 divided by 6 is 2. 14, I got 3 and I multiply it by 16. Placing it there, plus 2.1 multiplied by 4. So now I got two multiplications. I got the 3 times 16. I got the 2.1 times 4. So I'll multiply those two operations, and I get 48 plus, and 2.1 times 4 is 8.4. And when I add those together, I get 56.4. Number 15 is a little bit, I would say this is probably the most difficult problem in these examples, because as I substitute them in, I got 2 times 16 divided by 15 minus 7. So here's the thing. I see that I don't have any parentheses I have to solve, and I have a parentheses with 16, but that's all it's inside there. There's no other operation inside those parentheses. I have no exponents, so what I'm going to do first is I'm just going to multiply this 2 times 16, which will give me 32, and I'm going to divide it by 15 minus 7. Now, order of operation in the list says I'm going to go division before the subtraction. But this entire thing is represented as a division. I'm going to divide both 15 and I'm dividing both the negative 7. So you actually, in fact, have to almost treat this like those are parentheses in between them. So you have to do the subtraction first before you do the division. So it's going to be 32 divided by 8, and 32 divided by 8 gives me 4. Excuse me. 16, I got 7.2. B gets replaced with 8 minus 8 times 7. 7.2 times 8 gives me 57.6 minus 56. Order of operation. Subtracting those two together, I get 1.6. Last problem on these set of examples. I get B. I got 8. And I'm going to put in parentheses 16 minus 9.1. Taking care of the parentheses first. Now I got 8 times, let's go 6.9. Multiply those together, I get 55.2. Last thing is I got a story problem. The story problem states you use a long distance telephone service that charges 99 cents for the first minute of a long distance call and 10 cents for each additional minute. They want us to write and evaluate an expression for the cost of a 17-minute long phone call. So we know that the call is 17 minutes. They tell us for the first minute, so for 1 minute, it's going to cost 99 cents. So, and then after that, it's 10 cents for every additional minute. So I'm going to write an expression that looks like this. So I'm going to put 0.99 for the 99 cents for that 1 minute, plus I'm going to have plus 10 cents, so 0.1, and I'm going to multiply it by 16. Here's why. Because I made a 17-minute phone call, that first minute's going to be the 99-cent charge. The other 16 comes from the 10-cent charge. So that's where I get that 16 value in this specific problem. So now I'm going to use order of operation, put 99.99 plus, and then 0.1 times 16 would be 1.6. Now I add those together and I get 2.59. And since this deals with money, I label it as dollars. So $2.59. And that is being able to use order of operation. Hope this helps. Until next time.